Hi everyone. Remember a few months ago when I promised to do an FAQ video, because that was one of my goals, because when I got 12 sponsors on my crowdfunding platform Patreon, I was going to make an exclusive sponsored video FAQ where I answer your questions. Well, thing is, I had to go to Asia for 2 months and I didn't get to do it in time, and I gotta say, vlogging in the middle of nowhere in the jungles in Cambodia, it's not the ideal place for it. So I'm back in the Netherlands now, picking up my old life after my long travel, and now I get to have the time to work on my crowdfunding goals again. So today we are going to have the FAQ video where I answer some of your questions that you submitted. Some of you already a few months ago. Sorry for being late, but I had no other choice. So here I have some, I printed some of your biggest questions and I will read them out loud. First is from Jurien Helsdingen. He asked me on Facebook, have you ever attempted to eat your own moths or caterpillars? If yes, what did it taste like? Do you still have the urge? There we go, we got that one out of the way. Well, in fact, when I breed butterflies and moths in captivity, and this is going to sound stupid, when I breed them myself, I have this weird emotional attachment to them, because in some way they're my pets. And okay, in some cases I do have to kill some of them, yes I do, because I also like to preserve specimens. I work in a museum collection and some of my rare insects are preserved there for science. But that doesn't mean I like killing them. In fact, I still have a little bit dislike for it, because I just think they're just that more fascinating when they are alive. At heart, I'm a breeder of animals, so I like to keep them as alive as much as possible, despite killing them on some occasions. So this is the main thing that has prevented me from eating them. Killing them to preserve them for science, to me this is an important thing. It furthers on knowledge about these animals, but eating them for my own enjoyment, it's not something I would be inclined to do. Besides, insects don't taste that great to me. But I do have good news. When I was working in Laos and Cambodia, I did eat moths. In fact, I didn't just eat cocoons. I ate the adults and I filmed it. So, but you have to be patient, because this video will release in about 1 month. But there's one YouTube video where I'm going to eat hawk moths. Yes, roasted hawk moths that I collected from a moth trap. And it tasted okay. It didn't taste like meat, it tasted nutty. Like a mixture of walnut and wood. It's a very strange flavor. So yes, I have eaten moths before. And yes, there will be a video. But you gotta be patient if you want to see this happen. So subscribe and give it a few weeks and you'll see me eating delicious hawk moths on camera. So the next question is submitted by Mr. Glubshi. I hope I pronounce your username right. And he submitted a few questions. He is also a sponsor, a patron. Thank you for crowdfunding me. And one of the first questions he asked me is, what are good and easy species to breed in the winter months in Middle Europe? Now that's a difficult question, because winter, it's a horrible time to breed. I myself, when it's winter, yes, I do still breed moths, but way less, because the hobby is not that enjoyable to me. Because the options of food plant become very, very limited, and this makes things unnecessary, complicated and difficult, and that frustrates me. So I like to take a small break, but the species I still breed in winter obviously are the species that can eat wintergreen food plants. Now, what are some food plants that do not use their leaves in winter? Well, one of them is pine tree. Pine tree is evergreen, and that already spoils what I'm about to say. It means they do not lose their leaves, or I should say needles in this case, in winter. So if you have any moths that eat pine tree, yeah, they're a very good choice for breeding in winter. I myself like to breed the Chinese moon moth, the Actias dubernardi. If you don't know what it is, check out my video of that species. It's very good to breed in winter, also because it's a montane species, that means they live in the mountains. And so they like lower temperatures. Well, winter is lower temperatures, so that's perfect. So they have lower temperatures and pine needles, two things that are always available. So yes, I tend to breed these species around Christmas. It's one option. Secondly, the food plant privet, aka ligustrum, is eaten by a lot of species that are tropical and thus do not hibernate in winter. Take for example the atlas moth, Attacus atlas, to name one, or Rothschildia moths. They really love the ligustrum, the privet. But there's one downside. Privet is not evergreen, but it can be. And the difference is it is tolerant of frost, but not harsh frost, so it depends how cold it gets in your country. I think privet will only drop the leaves when it becomes about minus 20 degrees Celsius, and that will kill the leaves. But if you have a mellow country like me, for example, I have green leaves of the privet in winter. In fact, I've been breeding for over 10 years now, and I can only remember one very bad winter where my privet lost all the leaf. So if you have atlas moths, Rothschildia moths in your country, Middle Europe, I think there's a chance that you'll have privet in winter. But check it out before you do it. Don't take my word for it. I don't know the exact conditions of your country, but yeah, that's one example. What are some other evergreen plants? Rose, bramble. You know, there's a lot of moths that you can raise on bramble. First of all, the tiger moths. There's a lot of tiger moths in Europe, but also from warmer countries. And really the majority of them will really appreciate eating bramble. It's true. So, for example, Arctia species, Callimorpha species, whatever you like. Everything related to those genera, you can breed them in winter. If you follow my channel, you also see me uploading videos in winter. Another is the Automeres. Generally, Automeres moths, they can be raised on bramble. Oops. Wow, it's really windy, sorry for that. It's annoying to deal with the weather here. It's early spring, bad weather. So yeah, Automeres moths, if you have winter bramble in winter, yeah, you can breed them, even if it's cold and snowy. Last but not least, you can also just consider taking a break. I hate breeding in winter. Going outside in the snow and the cold to pick leaves in the rain, in the darkness, bah, it's terrible. Or getting eggs from a rare species only to find out you have no food plants for them in the winter. It's so frustrating, I hate it. Second question, do you have failures too? Do I have failures? Yes, I have a ton of failures. Behind the scenes, things die all the time. The difference is you won't see it because I don't upload videos of that. It's not nice content for my viewers to see how I kill some of my animals. Not on purpose, of course, but insect breeding can be complicated and prone to failure. Insects are frail and can have a high mortality rate. For example, caterpillars in captivity can be very sensitive to diseases, etc. So yes, I do lose quite a lot of species, but I don't upload my failures online because it's painful. I don't like to flaunt them, and when I upload them online, people will comment on it and ask me questions, forcing me to talk about my failure again, and it even hurts me more. So generally no, I do not upload any failures. There are a few videos you can check out though, because one time I ordered cocoons from Madagascar of the sunset moth, the Chrysiridia riffius, I had been anticipating these pupa for years, and when they hatched they were crippled, and I was so sad. I just filmed it and uploaded it because I had to share my grief. Yes, I do have failures. There's also a video where I talk about my top 10 failures of species that I failed to breed and that I still regret nowadays. That's another video you can check out about failures. So yeah, but failure is normal, it's part of the hobby really. Online I project this image of someone that has a lot of success, and that's partially true, but you should know that behind the scenes successes are always accompanied by a lot of failures, so the image you see of me online is really selective. Okay, your next question. Where do you get the exotic host plants? Most of them are treated with insecticides in the garden markets. Well, first of all, I rarely use exotic host plants. I only use plant species that grow here in Europe. Truth is, you can breed exotic species with non-exotic plants, because if you study butterflies and moths, you'll find that in Europe they will eat plants that are similar to the exotic species they eat. Yeah, that's true. In some cases I simply do not have the food plant, so there are also a lot of species that I can never breed, even if I wanted to. For example, you have this beautiful moth from South America called Coppens with the long tails, and they eat sapota. It's a plant that's impossible to get in Europe, so it's impossible for me to breed this moth. That's very simple. In some cases it's impossible. I do not have much exotic host plants. And as for insecticides, well, when I buy host plant, when I buy a new plant from the garden center, I don't use it. I wait about 6 months to a year, a full year, before I use it, and it takes that long for the poisons, for the toxins to go out of the plant. So plant it in your garden, forget about it, and use it for breeding a year later, and then it will be poison free. So your fourth question. Do you have any less known tips on how to find eggs, pupa or caterpillars from European species in nature? Well, first of all, you can most important thing if you want to find the species is to know the food plant. So my first tip is learn the host plants, learn to recognize them, seek them out in nature. It will make it much easier to randomly find caterpillars. Another method you can use is UV torching, because some caterpillars and cocoons, they glow under UV light. So buy yourself a black light, a UV torch, go out at night and shine the plants, and you'll see some of them light up blue. And that will make it easier to find caterpillars or eggs. So yeah. Okay, those are your questions. So moving on to other questions from other people. If you're still in this FAQ and still watching, congratulations, you are the 1%. Not many people have the patience to watch an hour-long video of me answering questions from random people. Not even the people that ask these questions themselves, probably. So Jenny Pertek, hope I pronounced that right, said, how do you kill the moths so they stay pretty? Well, I do kill moths, yes, for preservation purposes and collection purposes. There are two methods I use. One in the field is when you're far away from home and in the forest. You can use a syringe, an injection. And you can use a killing agent like ethyl acetate, it works very well. It's the same stuff that's in nail polish remover. Otherwise you can use alcohol to give them a lethal injection. If they're small moths or butterflies, you can squeeze the thorax and it crushes and instantly kills them. Last but not least, if you're at home, you can just use the freezer. You can freeze them to death. It's basically the best method to use is freezing, because that preserves them the best, and it's very fast. The animals are cold-blooded, so basically they go in a coma, their metabolism shuts down from the low temperatures, and that's it. Christian Frisk asked me, how much muisjes do you eat per week? Now I have to clarify, muisjes, it's a Dutch food, it means mice. No, we do not literally eat mice. They are these small sugar sugar-coated anise seeds that we spread on our toast or bread? And the answer is 0. Well, for some reason I don't like sweet breakfast, so no, I do not eat hagelslag, I do not eat muisjes, I do not eat Nutella. I prefer a fried egg or a cheese sandwich. I can't believe I'm answering this. Or a sausage. I do not like sweet food as breakfast. Sorry about that one. Frankus Lee asked me, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? Well, what should we say, guys? Next question. Mitro Leomaki asked me, how much is much? How much is much? Let's make another video about that one. Robin Heerdes asks me, Monster Energy or Bullet? To clarify, Bullet is cheap kind of Monster Energy, a cheap kind of energy drink we have in the Netherlands. And well, if you're still doubting this, man, I'm disappointed in you. Of course, it's Monster Energy. Veronique Hogervorst asked me, I'm thinking of cultivating Morpho and Caligo at the south coast of Turkey. Well, what's the best way to start? And are there rules for importing eggs or equipment? I want to start simple. Well, you live in Turkey and I don't know about the laws of your country. Sorry. I live in the European Union, so I abide to the laws of the European Union. But Turkey is not Europe. Turkey has different rules, different restrictions. So, sorry, that's a disappointing answer, but legislation is difficult. And I'd rather give you no answer than a wrong answer, because it's an important subject. If you're an insect breeder, you should follow the law. As for your other questions, what's the best way to start? The best way to start is, okay, grow the food plant first. You want to breed an insect? You'll grow plenty of food plant, because you're gonna be surprised at how much food plants caterpillars will consume over time. They eat a shitload, yeah? So you're gonna need a shitload of plants. Again, I'm sick of these military drills up here, guys. It ruins the ambience. So that's the first thing you should do. Secondly, get yourself a greenhouse. Butterflies need a lot of flight space as well as food plant. You live in Turkey, so it probably does not need to be heated in summer because your country is very hot. So in fact you probably are more concerned with cooling down your greenhouse than heating it if you're in Turkey. Yeah, throw some food plants in there, get it humid, and release the butterflies. Next question. Robin Allen asked me, you recently said you are not keeping anything now. Yes, it's true. This was a few months ago, before I traveled to Cambodia. I did not keep much insects because I didn't want to leave them behind. You know, my parents were taking care of all my species when I was traveling. So, of course, I don't want to leave them behind. So I was not breeding much. Since you said you're not keeping anything now in a lead up to your travel, estimate how many insects and other invertebrates are within 5 meters of you, including the ones on your own body. Phew. How many insects are within 5 meters of me? But to show you my surroundings, this is my little vlogging spot. Here is my basement door, my backyard. So, okay, so it's spring. Insects are active and reproducing, but not much. It's still cold. We're in my backyard. There are plants, so that means yes, there are insects, but my urban backyard is not very biodiverse. Although there are insects. It's not biodiverse, but they are here. So this is completely I think there are things like well, there should be ants, mites, And how do you call those things? Isopods. I know they're here. They are between the rocks. There's things like mites. Yes, they even live on my body. On everyone's body. In fact, if you use a microscope on your skin, you'll see every human person has mites on their skin. So I gotta say, within 5 meters of me in this hedge here, it's a wonderful place for overwintering spiders, insects. I would say about 200. That's conservative estimation. Maybe if we crank it up, I would say 400 insects. If you count mites, maybe microscopic things, maybe 1,000 or more. But how do I get these numbers? Well, I'm literally pulling them out of my ass, okay? This is what I think. I would say about 1,000 if you counted every individual, every mite. Now that still sounds like too little. I would say 10,000 because mites, they're so numerous, they're everywhere. Mites are so small, they're even eating fungus spores and whatever. And you have mites that eat other mites and blah blah. Okay, I say 10,000. Next question. Daria ROC, patron, thanks for sponsoring me by the way, tells me, what native US species of butterfly or moths haven't you raised yet and would you be interested in? What USA species do I still want to breed and have I never bred before? Automerus zephira. It's a beautiful, beautiful species. And I think it lives a little bit in the south. Warmer climates, it really likes eating oak. It's easy to breed from what I heard, but I never got the chance. It's an incredible, beautiful moth. I would love to breed Automerus zephira. Am I saying it right, or is it Automerus zephyria? I think it's Automerus zephyria, but it's a beauty. I'd also love to breed the 2 Citheronia species that I have not gotten around to breeding yet that live in the USA. One is the pine devil, the Citheronia sepulchralis. It's difficult to get because it's a rare species in the USA. So I probably find some contacts. I mean, it's not on top of my priority list, but when I see them for sale, next time I'll give them a try. I really love Citheronia moths. You see my channel even has a special playlist about them. So what's interesting, it's a unique species in the genus because it only feeds on pine tree. It's a specialist on pine tree, and all the other Citheronia species they eat things like sweet gum, Schinus molle, sumac, rus. But pine tree is a unique food plant. So it's really species that stands out from the other Citheronia to me, if you look at the ecology. Second is the Citheronia splendens. It looks a little bit like Regalis, superficially, but it's darker. It has these nice, deep, dark grey and red colors. It has these almost Christmas-like colors, and the caterpillars are beautiful. They're darker than Regalis. I would love to breed Citheronia splendens. For some reason, I did have eggs once, but I didn't succeed. They died. Don't know why. It happens sometimes. Let me think. What else is there? Oh, the Antherea oculea. I love that one. It looks like the Antherea polyphemus, the polyphemus moth. That one's famous, right? But the oculea is much more beautiful. It's more rare. It's more difficult to breed. But instead of just 2 big eye spots on the hind wing, it has 4 big eye spots. Also 2 on the forewings. And polyphemus has the small ones that are not noticeable. Google them, you'll see what I mean. So yeah, those are just Saturnid moths, but they're obviously my favorites. So most of my list will be the Saturnid moths. Hemileuca egelanterina. It's Hemileuca bug moth. It has these nice orange and red colors. I tried to breed that one several times, but they always die. To me, it's a difficult one to breed. I think I don't have the proper food plant. So that's just the USA silk moths. As for tiger moths, I would like to breed the Haploa climene. It's the one with the upside down satanic looking cross. It's a really funny looking moth. I would like to breed that one. It's a tiger moth. It's in fact a common species. Hypercompus scribonia, the giant leopard moth. It's a very, very big tiger moth. It's white with these iridescent blue metallic spots. It's a beauty. It's a common species in some places, but it's hard to find females that have eggs, so it's still hard to get. Hope someday I hope to find a lucky person that's sending me eggs of that one. Yeah, what else is there? Oof, let me think. There's so much in the USA. It's a very big continent. I'm just thinking of the northern United States of America now. So I'm not even counting Canada. I'm not counting Mexico. Just the good old USA. So many good species there. Oh, let me think. I could go on and on, guys. So if I'm not gonna be able to think of any examples, maybe I'll go to the next question. Oh yeah, toulipe. That's a type of leopard moth called the toulipe. Yes, it's the genus name. And it looks just like this fluffy white leopard moth. I would love to breed that one as well. It's really great. What else? Oof, so many species. It's hard to make a choice. Although I did breed a lot of USA species. Definitely all the common ones I did. Let's see, what's there? Nah, that's it for now. I think I told you my my biggest wishes. There's a few good hawk moths as well. But I don't think they're on top of my priority list. I like hawk moths, but I breed them less than other species. So I do like the small green Proserpinus species that you have there. They're beautiful. So the Proserpinus lucidus, I tried to breed that one before, but I failed. So maybe I'll have a rematch someday. And my printer had a malfunction, so it's difficult to read some of your names. But I think this reads Liril Zian. Sorry if I said it wrong. You asked me, I'm particularly fond of Lepidoptera with pink iridescence, like Protogonomorphia parnassus, Sevenia pegueli, and some other genus Fountainea. Do you happen to know any more? Oof, this is a really difficult question, dude, because pink iridescence is really rare. You'll very rarely find it anywhere, let alone in insects, but yes, there are a few. I don't know if this counts as pink iridescence, but you have these fairy butterflies in South America. And oof, I gotta think of the genus name. What was it again? It started with a C. Oh god. Did I just forget the genus name? There are these clear-winged butterflies. And they don't have any scales on the wings, except for a little bit on the hind wing. They have this pink dusting. Well, I don't know if it's pink iridescence, but it is iridescence. They are very shiny and pink. Oh, I gotta nuke them up on Google. Sorry. Luckily I have my phone. So it's called like something like a fairy clearwing. It's a Nymphalidae. Let's see. Looking it up for you. Fairy fly. Meanwhile, I'm thinking of other pink iridescent species, but it's really extremely rare in nature. Okay, so let's take a look. I think I found. Oh yes, Citarias. I'm not sure if you can see this. Citarias. If you want to have the name, send me a private message. I'll write it out. But they do have like the shiny pink stuff, what you're after. And another one are Euphaedra. they are a little bit shiny and they have pink accents sometimes. Otherwise, I can think of a few pink species, but pink iridescent, nah, it's almost non-existent. So I couldn't think of any. Oh god, it's starting to rain. This really sucks. But I'm dedicated to my FHQ video, although my papers are getting wet now, so god. You know what, we're moving inside. This is not acceptable. Okay guys, so I moved inside to avoid the rain. That's right. I'm back and armed with soup, which is one of my few meals for today because I'm on a diet. During my trip to Cambodia, I think I gained about 5 or 6 kilo in 1 month. It's ridiculous. The food was so cheap. I have no limits. So I'm gonna continue with your questions. Let's see where we left off. If you're still watching after this time, man, you have some perseverance. There must be something wrong with both of us. With you because you're still watching after all this time, and with me because I'm still going on after all this time, despite knowing that not many people will watch it this far in the video. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? So, okay, so we had these questions. We had, yes, finish this sheet with last question with the pink iridescence. So I'm gonna put that one aside. Let me check if, yes, indeed I answered everything from this sheet. This sheet, not this shit. It's my accent. Emperor Moth asks me, how important would you say Lepidoptera are in ecosystems around the world? Well, I love moths and butterflies. In fact, my life is dedicated to them. But I'm also a honest person. And I have to say, in the grand scheme of things, butterflies and moths are not very important. That's why it's so difficult to get work with them. You see, if you study mosquitoes, you can probably make a lot of money if you're a good scientist. Because mosquitoes, they kill millions of people per year. They spread the most deadly diseases known to mankind. This is malaria and dengue. Butterflies and moths, however, they look pretty, but they have very little significance to us humans. As for the environment, they do have their role to play. They're an important source of food for many animals, most importantly bats. I think bats are the biggest consumer of Lepidoptera in the world. In fact, many moths and nocturnal Lepidoptera have special defense mechanisms known to deter bats in specific, including the long tails they have on their hind wings, but also acoustic reflection. They have special coating that absorbs ultrasonic sounds, or they can even hear them and respond to them. Some even jam bats' signal by producing a counter sound. So yes, that means there's a very hard selective pressure on Lepidoptera by bats. And birds are another one. While we have bats at night and daytime, the birds are a really huge predator of Lepidoptera. And also wasps and all the carnivorous invertebrates that are insectivorous. You know, you can name anything from spiders to praying mantids to wasps. Lepidoptera, they support a lot of other organisms. But is their role important? Yeah. They support a few species. For example, if you live in Europe, there's a bird called a tit. You have like blue and black tits. Yeah. Okay, seriously, I mean birds here. And for example, it turns out after some research in spring, they almost exclusively feed their young with the fat, juicy caterpillars you can find in spring. They're good at finding them. So to some birds and mammals, even a lot of rodents like mice, eat caterpillars or imagos or cocoons and pupa. So I wouldn't say they are unimportant. So they definitely have their role to play. There are also bioindicators for certain habitats, or in some cases deforestation. Some species only live in specific forests or in meadows. And if the conditions change and become unsuitable, these species disappear. So they are good bioindicators. So yeah, they do have some significance in ecosystems, but gotta admit, they're not great pollinators. In fact, they do little pollinating. In most cases, they just consume the nectar. They usually live in low densities, although yes, well, compared to other insects, Lepidoptera are a little bit more low density species, I think. Because if you look at things like flies or wasps, they can dominate ecosystems, or ants, but Lepidoptera are often not that impactful. One of the ways they do make a difference is as defoliators. They balance out some types of plants, but not very significantly, but they still do. So I would say they are somewhat important, but not extremely significant. I would like to say from the bottom of my heart, butterflies and moths are the most important animals in the world. But truth is, they are not really. We love them though. Next question. By Emperor Moth. Do you believe the conservation of insects should be given more support and attention? Could you honestly imagine saying no to this question? I've dedicated my whole life to studying insects. To me, they're the most important thing in the world. But they're also very important for all the other people that live on this planet. Because people don't realize we need insects actually much more than we need them. Just to name a few things, all the fruits and vegetables you buy in the supermarket, the flowers from these plants are pollinated by insects. Most cases. Some places like China, they do pollination by hand. Yeah, sounds ridiculous, but it happens. But let's say that 99% of all the fruit and vegetables you eat, from a fig to an apple to a pear to berries, whatever you like to eat, it's pollinated by an insect. So yeah, just to start with, for our own food production, it's a concern if we keep destroying our environment like we're currently doing. Secondly, insects are basically the supporters of the whole framework of the ecosystem. They're basically at the bottom level where everything in the higher food chains starts. You know, you can imagine, for example, you have the insects that feed from plants, from grasshoppers to caterpillars to whatever, crickets, any herbivorous insect that is later consumed by carnivorous insects or by birds, etc. And these insectivorous birds are eaten by birds of prey. I'm sure I don't have to explain to you the concept of a food web. I think most of you know what a food web is. And insects are at the bottom of this. That means that they are the most important keystone to all of the ecosystems. Without insects, there would be no birds. Without insects, there would be no mammals. Without insects, there would be no plants. Well, flowering plants it is, but still, that's a lot of plants they support. Without insects, there wouldn't be much left for us. So yeah, the decline is very concerning. Last but not least, we are also wiping out species that could help us. A lot of species have interesting defense mechanisms and chemicals that need to be researched. For example, take the iridescent on the wings of some butterflies. It's really interesting nanotechnology that we could figure out to make like an iridescent coating for our cars or smartphones. We are not as far that we can actually copy this technology. In some ways, insects are still more advanced than us. Of course, it's not a conscious choice by them, but still, the way nature shaped them, they're still very complex and we can learn. For example, in South America, there are some caterpillars. If you touch them, you can die from internal bleeding. They're called Lonomia obliqua in specific, the assassin caterpillar, the Taturana, as they call it. So what this means is the venom of these caterpillars, it's strong enough to give you a brain hemorrhage or organ failure. That's really potent venom that affects your blood. But it tells us that there's a really strong blood thinner in this venom. And this component is poorly researched. So why don't we copy it? For example, it could make a great medicine we could use to help people. A new blood thinner on the market, inspired by caterpillars. Let me tell you that most of the modern medicines we use today are inspired by chemicals found in nature. For example, aspirin, painkiller. It resembles salicylic acid. It's made by willows. And this is like, I think it's like a plant hormone. And it also helps to reduce pain in humans and animals. In fact, deer, if they are hurt, you'll see them eating willow bark or leaves. Because they know it works like a natural painkiller. Or how about penicillin, the most generally used antibiotic on this planet. And nowadays we use penicillin much less because bacteria are becoming resistant to it because we overuse it and expose these bacteria to it all the time, giving them the time to adapt to it, which is dumb. But still, penicillin, it was originally secreted by a fungus. And this fungus secretes the penicillin to kill all the bacteria in the surrounding areas. Basically, they compete with other microorganisms, fungi and bacteria. They compete on like a cellular level. The fungus wins this competition by secreting the penicillin, killing all the competition. So, and that's how we humans invented the most common antibiotic, by growing these fungi. And this is one way how nature has helped us progress our society in many ways. Insects are a part of this. I mean, sure, I can't think of any medicine that we derive from insects directly, but they still have all these interesting properties. For example, how they can eat very toxic plants and break down the chemicals, or how they form their colors, or their evolution. We can learn a lot from them by studying them, so it would be stupid to destroy them, like we are doing now. I could go on and on, but yes, conservation to me is one of the most important things for our society right now. It's not just insects, we're wiping out everything from reptiles to amphibians. I'm just a small YouTuber, but maybe a few years, maybe 5 to 6 years from now, I think my YouTube channel will be much bigger than it is today. And crowdfunding is going up. Maybe someday it will be enough to make a difference, because I don't plan to waste this money on buying myself stupid things and partying all day. No. If I get to that point, I'll definitely invest the money in protecting wildlife, researching it. Maybe get myself a piece of land and conserve it. All the plants and trees and animals in there, so they are protected from development and cutting down of the forest, blah blah blah. Next question. Also from Emperor Moth. Not related to Lepidoptera, but how is your language learning going? Oof, well, I'm still learning Russian language, in fact. Now I think I'm learning it for 2 years now. It's so difficult, but it's going okay. Let me think of something I could say in Russian. Русский язык не сложно, но за ними много времени. Ja изучал русский язык 2 года, и я говорил немного по-русски, да, немного. But I cannot hold a basic conversation. That's very frustrating. I think if you want to learn Russian as a native Dutch speaker or English speaker, it will take you 5 to 7 years. Maybe unless you study intensively. Of course, it's not about the years you study, but how much hours you put in it per day. And I'm casually doing it. It's just a fun hobby. So I do it a few hours per week. So at some point I'll get there. I do want to become fluent though. So, да. Я люблю бабочек, да. How do you say thanks for watching in Russian? Спасибо для посмотри my video. Nah, that sounds terrible. Okay, next question. How many species do you raise a year? By the silent moth trapper. Well, it depends. This year I think I'm going to raise a little less than normally. Why? Because I've been traveling in Asia, Cambodia and Laos for 2 months, and to do that I had to give up most of my livestock. You see, usually I just breed them throughout all the year, even in winter. But this year I couldn't do that because I was leaving my country and I couldn't leave all those pets behind. I can't leave thousands of insects behind. So I stopped breeding them for quite a long time. So now it's spring and I'm starting my hobby again, but I have a disadvantage because, you know, still don't have all the material that I normally have. But in good years I think I bred over 50 species per year. That's a lot. I think this year maybe I'm going to cut 30 species, maybe a bit more, 30, 40 species. Also depends on how successful I am and how busy I am. Cheese the cowfish, that's your username, asked me, what's the first moth that I ever raised? First moth I ever raised was the garden tiger moth, the Arctiacaya. That's why it's still one of my favorites. Because if you're a breeder, most of us never tend to forget our first species, and no matter how many species we see, the first one is always remains special to us. I've spoken to so many breeders in my life who said, well, when I was 16 years old, and now they're like 70 or 80 and still breeding. So like, oh, the first thing I bred was the deathhead hog moth. I still love that species, you know? We get that feeling. I have the same. The garden tiger moth, it's a special species to me. And another one was the deathhead hog moth. The garden tiger moth was the first species that I raised from the eggs to the adult moth, but I didn't, I didn't get to complete their life cycle. And the first moth that I bred for many generations was the deathhead hog moth, the Agontia atropos. Very good beginner species, easy, big, convenient. Great grandma's greenhouse asked me. Oh wait, you said good luck and all you're doing. That's not a question. Sorry, I included it in here by accident. Although thank you. Tornado Dude 8 asked me, how did you get started raising moths? Well, it started when I was 12 years old. Because I had this small vegetable garden, right? Because I was sitting behind the computer too much and my parents were getting upset at me only sitting at the computer playing video games. So they got me like the small vegetable garden where I could grow plants. But I neglected most of it, so it was full of weeds and like stinging nettles and bramble. It became a mess. But I did grow some cabbage in there, because cabbage is hard to kill, it grows very well. So after some time, cabbage butterflies like the Pyrus brassica, the green cabbage whites, the white cabbage white butterflies. Okay, they came to my garden and laid eggs. So I noticed these caterpillars. I took them, I raised all of them to butterflies, and the whole process just fascinated me. I'd never seen something like this before. I knew caterpillars turn into butterflies, but to see it with my own eyes. It was like magic. You know, after all these years, it still feels like magic. It's so weird to see this metamorphosis, to take care of this larva and see it change into a completely different creature. It's such a weird feeling, you know? I'm not a spiritual person. I don't believe in anything religious. I don't believe in anything spiritual, but this that's the closest thing of magic I know. Because it's just, I would almost call it a biological miracle if I weren't such a logical person that hates calling things a miracle. Because I think even things we label as miracle are things we can understand at some point. I mean, there's nothing supernatural going on here. It's all a process, a biochemical process that we can dissect and understand. But still, maybe it touches me on some level that I cannot explain. Maybe it is a spiritual level, although I hate to say that. Because, well, my soul is a grumpy old man that hates spiritual things and things like that. But yeah, that's definitely one of the things that got me obsessed. I have this weird, peculiar obsession with them ever since. It's hard to put it into words, but I hope you get what I meant. Let's see, Wolfiehound asks, what is your opinion on Hyena lineata, the species of moth? Well, I know that species, but how do I form an opinion on a species? I mean, I like them. It's a pretty moth. Have I bred them myself? Actually, I tried to once, but for some reason the caterpillar died. Which is weird because it should be a very easy species to breed. Otherwise, yeah. What kind of opinion should I have if you're talking about this particular species? It's a common species. Has nice stripes. It's a hawk moth. I like hawk moths, but not as much as silk moths, and I breed them less than other species. I still breed them, but less. So, I guess I want to say I approve. Next one. My printer printed half of your name because it was running out of ink. Sorry, dude. But I think it reads Ritjeborg 9 Tilly. Ritjeborg 9 Tilly, okay. Bart, just so you know, the picture of the Butanitis litter dolly picture on your Patreon page is Tidina, not litter dolly. Oops, did I put the wrong species? Sorry. It happens. To be honest, for Patreon, I just googled these silly pictures to make up these tiers. I didn't take them very seriously. I mean, probably half of them are the wrong species. They're not my pictures too, they're just the first Google image result that I could find that looks nice and representative, but sorry if it's the wrong species, although I don't plan to change the picture, it looks good. So it will be our secret that it's actually the wrong species, okay? Shh. Taratorn Neam van, well, we talk a lot on WhatsApp, right? You're in our WhatsApp group. Asks me, what is the biggest species of butterfly in the family of the Nymphalidae? That's hard to say, man. First of all, I don't know this family very well. But I would say that some of the owl butterflies from South America, the caligo, are the biggest that I've seen so far. We have a museum collection them where I work in a museum. Some specimens there are very huge, bigger than any other Nymphalidae I saw in my life. So I wouldn't claim they're the biggest in the world, although they could be. But they're the biggest that I've seen, and I've seen a lot. That's what I'll say. Otherwise, if you're in Asia, you have another big one. It's called the Stichoptalma, the jungle queen. They're very pretty, very colorful, and also big. Although not close to the biggest in the world maybe, but still a giant. And you also have this nice one called the, I think the Palm King. Forgot the scientific name. It starts with an A, but yeah, it's a biggish one. Waxy Succulent asks me, how do Lepidoptera species impact the environment and what impact do they make? And why should we learn more about them? Well, this question is actually very similar to the one I answered before about conservation, but and the one where Emperor Moth asked me, how important would you say Lepidoptera are for ecosystems? But I'll just recap what I said. Well, how do they impact the environment? Well, first, they defoliate, so they help regulate the plant community. Some plants get defoliated or eaten by caterpillars so bad that they die. Even major trees like oak trees can get infested by caterpillars so that it kills them. So butterflies and moths impact the flora very much in the environment. Second of all, they impact birds, mammals, all the insectivorous animals. They are the lower supply, the lower level of the food chain. So they definitely have big impact on birds, animals, rodents, vertebrates, fish, you name it. They're a very stable food source. In fact, I would say if there are no moths, you will see very little bats. So they do have impact. Well, pollination. Butterflies and moths are terrible pollinators because unlike bees, etc., they don't collect pollen on their bodies. It happens sometimes when they do it by accident because their tongue doesn't retain much pollen. Do they pollinate? They do, but they do a bad job. But they do pollinate, so they have very small impact on reproduction. Otherwise, what other impacts do they have? Well, they are bioindicators. Being a bioindicator, in fact, has no impact on the environment, but it does have impact on how humans study the environment. Because butterflies and moths can tell us a lot about the condition and the habitat of the environment. So in that regard, they do have influence, but not direct, but indirectly via humanity, to the way we conserve our environment. Of course, we like pretty butterflies, and if there's a rare butterfly species in the area, we want to preserve the area. The same would not happen if there was a rare spider, if there was a rare mosquito, or a rare isopod. We don't like those kind of animals. They look creepy and stupid and not colorful. This is not my opinion, this is what most other people think, okay? I like all invertebrates, but obviously, if there's something that appeals to us, we will be much faster to conserve it. So, in that regard, butterflies do impact the environment by appealing to humans. Yes, that's a new one, isn't it? Some guy tells me, I'm actually disappointed in the YouTube community. That your channel hasn't gained more traction. Have you tried to post your stuff on other places just for attention? I like your videos for information entertainment. Well, thanks for the compliment. How should I comment on it? Of course, I wouldn't say I'm a very successful person with YouTube. I mean, how many subscribers do you have now? About 4,000? So yeah. Although I do have to say 4,000 is not a negligible amount, because you have people doing this for years that are stuck at 200 subscribers. So compared to these other channels, I would say I'm mildly successful, yeah. Second of all, I'm not going viral or anything, but my amount of subscribers pretty much doubles every year. So now we're at 4,000. Maybe 1 year down the line, 2020 in the summer, we'll be at 8,000. Maybe, if things go well. Maybe in 2 or 3 years' time, we'll be at 10,000 subscribers. It's still not much, but it's much more than most people have. So I wouldn't say I'm unsuccessful or unhappy with my subscribers. I'm happy with what I have. On the other hand, I can also name a few very stupid channels that have millions of subscribers, but it's also a question of luck and skill. I'm lacking in the luck department, that's true, but I'm also lacking in the skill department because I'm bad at editing my videos. I don't know how to edit them. I upload a lot of raw material with a bad presentation. I struggle with English sometimes. I speak weird sentences that people don't understand. I use weird vocabulary. I'm not eloquent. I'm not very witty or funny. I have to think a lot about what I have to say. And that's because I'm doing all of this not in my native language. In my native language I can be quite witty actually, but in English I'm like this. I almost talk like Donald Trump sometimes, if you know what I mean. I talk bigly. Okay, sorry, I don't want to make my YouTube channel political. This is not political criticism. Okay, I don't care if you're left or right. You are all insect lovers, you are all welcome. It was just a joke to illustrate what I mean. Well, that covers the questions for today. I hope you are content with this FHQ for today. I do have some other announcements to make this week, so stay tuned and follow my channel. We're gonna see more. Thanks for watching.